Hi, my name is Rogerio Manso and welcome to our webinar, Making Your Decisions in Agile Environment using Cynefin Framework. My name is Rogerio Manso, I'm a project manager here in Montreal, and I'm here with my good friend, Vitor Massari. Hi, Vitor, how are you?
Hi people, hi, my name is Vitor Massari. I am CEO of a company called HighFlex Consulting, and we are here to talk about Kinevin, an interesting framework to make good decisions in companies and projects and life.
Yeah, so the idea of this webinar is to present you an introduction about Kinevin and give you also an overview about how to move between the different domains and how can this framework help you in making your decisions in a Java environment and a project management environment, or even in any other situation that you need to decide based on your environment what is the best approach to adopt. So let's start talking a little bit about the origins of Kinevin. So Kinevin, it's a Welsh word and we pronounce Kinevin. The name Kinevin means habitat or place, which means it's the place of your multiple belonging. So Kinevin was created by a researcher named David Snowden, and it's considered a sense-making framework, which means that something that you will perceive when you use this framework. It's not a categorization model where you can identify environments and categorize these environments. So let's start explaining what's the five Kinevin framework domains, and Victor will give you after this some examples and explain how to adopt and use this framework. Any live environment could be understood in 5 possible domains. I will start drawing this picture here that will illustrate the boundaries from all 5 Kinevin domains. So the first domain is called clear domain. So here, clear does not mean that it's something simple, but something where there's nothing unknown to be understood. So we know everything that is happening in this environment. So the first challenge, the first characteristic of the clear environment is that it's highly predictable. Why it's highly predictable is because it's highly repeatable. So it's an environment governed by strict restrictions. It's an environment where we use to adopt checklists. Checklist is a main characteristic of a clear environment. So in this environment, we can use the best practice. So let's, for example, a production line in a factory. Let me give you another example, McDonald's. McDonald's, it's clear we know exactly what we need to do. So we just need to follow a rigid checklist to produce our hamburger. So we cannot do anything different. Otherwise, the result will not be the same and acceptable by the customer. So the same process we use in the United States, in Canada, in Brazil, anywhere, it's always the same. It's a checklist that needs to be followed. Another example, for example, it's a call center. So let's say, for example, that you give a call to a call center. So the operator will follow a checklist. And when you call a call center, all these people know exactly what they do and what is the performance of their environment. So how many hamburgers he cooked that day, how many calls, and how long it takes for each call in this call center. So they have some performance very well defined in this specific clear environment. All right, so it's clear we can use best practices. So the second environment is what we call complicated. A complicated environment, and why we use this dotted line between these two environments, it's because this border is not clear, it's hazy. So, and why this border is hazy is because it's a human border. It depends of a human behavior. So it's not clear exactly when you move from one side to another. So that's, it's a complicated environment. So the complicated environment, like the clear environment, it's knowledgeable and also predictable. So, but it's an environment that you need to use an analytical method to make the right decision. So you need that some technical specialists clarify this scenario. So usually these specialists act in an environment with some governance restriction. These technical specialists, in this case, cannot adopt best practices. So they will use good practice, right? So a good example of a complicated environment is software development. So you need to proceed an analysis before start to develop something. So if you developed a software, you have to follow some governance constraints, like you have some dates to deploy, you have some standards to follow in project management or in software development management, etc. So this process, software development, is something that you need that start with an analysis. Even if it's a short analysis, you need to do an evaluation of what you're gonna do. Another example is, for example, a doctor, a medical doctor. They need to proceed a deeply analysis before giving you a diagnostic. But they also know that they need to follow some governance restriction defined by the medical order. So a doctor cannot only prescribe you some medicine or some exam without a previous analysis, all right? And let me give you another example that will illustrate a little bit this border between clear and complicated. Let's assume that you call a call center and the operator follow the checklists, but at the end of this checklist, the operator cannot solve your problem. So what the operator will do, they will transfer your problem to a second level support, right? So in the first moment, they are in the clear environment, but when they finish this best practice, this checklist, and they define that your problem is not be possible to be solved by this checklist, that they need to make some analysis more in depth of your problem, they will transfer your situation to from a clear environment to a complicated environment. So in the second environment, the next support level will proceed some investigation to know what's going on. So this person in the complicated environment it's also guided by some governance restrictions. So even if it's a technical support, they need to follow some guidance in terms of what he can do and what he can't do. The same, let me give you a second example about this. Let's take the example of the doctor. When you go to a hospital and you arrive in the hospital, the person that will give you the first response usually is not the doctor. It's someone that will start asking you some questions to identify your problem, okay? But they will not give you the solution of your problem. So they will just identify to where they're gonna direct you, guide you in the hospital. Which kind of doctor do you need? What kind of specialization or exam do you need to do? So the first moment, the first response is something that is clear, the hospital. But once they define in the high level the problem, they need to keep investigating, analyzing this problem, and then they move from a clear environment to a complicated environment where they're gonna proceed some additional analysis and to identify your problem and provide a solution. So these two systems are considered ordered. So you can identify the problem, you can categorize or analyze the situation, and you can make a decision. So these two environments are in a certain way something that you can use best or good practice. On the other side, we have two other environments that are probe size response. So you need to conduct experiments to make a decision. So we have our third environment, that is the complex environment. So the complex environment is unpredictable, it's unknown, which means that you need to be adaptable. You need adaptability to getting your decision, and this adaptability you get by empiricism. So the restrictions of complex environments are adaptive. Complex environments is the environment for experiment and innovation. In this environment, you have to apply emergent practices. For example, startups, marketing campaign, research. So all these examples, you are in a complex environment and you need to perform some experimental activities to see what to do. The fourth environment is a chaos. The chaotic environment. So in this environment, it's something that is dysfunctional, something that never happened before. There's no restriction. Okay. In this situation, you must take immediate action to stabilize the situation. So, or you take action, or you will be dead. Your company will be dead, your business will be dead. So you need to take an action immediately. And in this environment, each practice will be considered a novel practice. It's something that you have never done before. A good example of a chaotic environment is what we are experiencing today. Is a pandemic, okay, situation. It's an earthquake. It's a plane crash. Something that never happened before. And when this happened, you need to take some action immediately to get out of this chaos environment. But how to get out of this chaos environment and go to a complex or a complicated or even a clear environment? Okay, so Vitor will explain you in a minute how to do this. Finally, we have this central part of this picture where we are in a confusion. So this environment means that we don't know in which domain I am in. So at this stage, to analyze this big picture, you need to split this environment, your environment, this picture, to understand each part. So each piece of your environment should be analyzed in the separate way. A good example of this is, for example, when we analyze like a portfolio management. A project portfolio means that you cannot say that your whole project portfolio is bad or good. You can have some projects that are good and some projects that are bad. You can have some programs good or bad, but not. Does not mean that your whole project portfolio is in a bad situation if you have, for example, some projects that are in a good way. So you need to separate these pieces to understand what is going on in each part of your scenario to make the right decision. You cannot take a decision based on the whole portfolio picture if you have some projects that are good, all right? So this makes some, give you some information about these 5 areas. So the clear environment where we can adopt best practices, the complicated where we can adopt good practices, a complex environment where we can use emergent practices, and a chaotic where we can have new practices. So how can we move from one area to another? How can we go from, for example, complex to complicated, or to clear to complicated? So there are some steps that we need to follow to understand how to move these areas. So now Vitor will explain you how to adopt, how to use this framework in your decision-making process. Vitor is on you.
Okay, Rogerio, thank you. It's good to know because about the domains are not static. The domains are in constant movement. So we need to understand how to migrate from one domain to another domain. Clear domain, it's the big goal is assertiveness. Assertiveness. That's a goal, because we have a lot of rigid restrictions or constraints. If you are broke any of these constraints, we will experiment some chaotic period. Okay, so it's very important to establish a lot of constraints, a lot of restrictions to maintain the environment. Oh, sorry, not assertiveness. The goal is stability. Sorry, the goal is stability. To maintain the environment completely stable. Okay, stability is the goal of the clear system. The complicated system is assertiveness. Okay, sorry for my mistake. Oh my God, assertiveness. Okay, assertiveness, because the complicated system, the complicated world depends on a human frontier. And human frontier with technical expertise. So I can make a right decision, or I can make a wrong decision. If I take a wrong decision, I simply can move the situation for chaos. Okay, so it's an interesting, careful system. Okay, because it depends exclusively by the technical domain. Okay, so we have a complicated system becomes a clear system when we have some repetitions. The situation was performed a lot of times until it turns a best practice. Okay, so we turn a good practice for a best practice, or another term, consolidated practice. Okay, it's a better term to this explanation. Okay, a complex world is unpredictable, so we have a lot of experiences, or Kinevin official expression, probes. And experiences, probes, we have 50-50% of chance, 50% of success and 50% of failure. Okay, so we need to understand what actions we will take in case of failure, and what actions we will take in case of success. So it's a 50-50. So it's very important to realize experiments that will not broken or generate some risk of broken your company, broken your project, broken your initiative, or broken yourself. Okay, so we have a lot of experiences, and these experiences will draw a path to a complicated world, and we will transit. We have a transition, of complex world to complicated world. Example: the startup. The startup begins in a completely unpredictable world with another of experiments, and the startup becomes a big company. Examples: Uber, iFood, Zappos, and another examples. These companies today are complicated companies, okay, because it's in these moments these companies are predictable. These companies have a structured processes different of some years ago. When they were in complex environment. Okay, so it's important to talk about that. So let's talk about the chaotic situation. We need to take some measures to avoid the chaos. In the clear, creating rigid constraints, rigid restrictions, or rigid constraints. We need to create these barriers, rigid frontiers, something like that. In the complicated world, we need to have the best technical specialists, because one case of negligence, one case of malpractice, or one case of recklessness will move the situation to entire chaos. But in the complex world, the chaos is a inherent risk, because it's a completely unpredictable and experimental environment. So if we turn a wrong way, we will experiment chaos. But the chaos needs to be controlled. So we create some kind of frontier. Okay, so if the experiment have a kind of failure, this failure generates some moment of chaos, but not sufficiently chaos to generate a big crisis in your project or in your company. Okay, it's like it's like a big risk, investment. Okay, it's a big risk money investment. So we don't, you don't put your entire money, your entire savings to in here. So
in fact, Victor, let me just add something. This is a controlled experiment. So you can experience, but you have some control in the result. You don't know exactly what to expect, but you have some frontier where you can accept the risk to this experiment.
Yeah, Rogerio, perfect. Thank you for your words. And so it's interesting to know that goal of the complex system is learning. We are learning with the experiments results. We are learning from adaptation. We are learning from empiricism. Okay, better. And about chaotic system, the goal is saving. Which money, which people we get to save. We get to save from chaos. Okay, money, people, paper, anything that we can save from chaos. Okay, the goal is saving. The chaos occurs. The chaos generate some kind of loss. We need to saving this loss. Have some savings from this loss. Okay, so we have a key. So we have some connections between the environments. So in agile environments, what kind of decisions we can make? So first of all, clear projects. Clear projects have a characteristic of operational things, repeatable things, consolidated things. Okay, so in this environment, clear projects needs a predictive approach or linear approach.
And usually in this environment, we don't use agile. If we have a clear approach, we can go directly to a waterfall approach, right?
Yeah, right, because the goal of the system is stability. Is a very predictable system. So if we follow the right steps,
the checklist, the right plan,
the right plan, we will have the same result always. So waterfall or linear approaches. I like very much this expression linear approaches instead waterfall approaches. Linear approach, okay, so we have planning phases, execution phases, inspection phases, and operational phases. Talking in IT language, planning, development, testing, and implementation. Okay, just for not using, not for use only IT expressions. Okay. So we have the complicated projects, the projects that are predictable if we have the correct analysis and the great technical specialists. Okay, here we need two possible options. One of them, it's waterfall, linear approaches. If I have the right techniques, if I have the right analysis process, if I have the good practice and use the good practice, not only know about the good practice, but use the good practice, we use a waterfall. But we can use some hybrid models here in the complicated world. Example, we have a big upfront plan because it's necessary, and the execution using adaptive practices. Okay, because the adaptive practice helps to identify possible problems in the project, and it's maximize the time to answer and to change this plan. Okay, so we have a hybrid model, a big upfront planning and adaptive execution. Okay, so we have the third situation that I called this technically it's called liminal Kinevin. It's a transition zone. I called I don't know if this expression is it's a common expression. Here in Brazil, I call the gray zone. I don't know
gray
if
zone.
Gray zone. It's
hazy. It's hazy. It's something not clear.
Yeah, it's the gray zone, because a lot of projects are in the gray zone because we have a lot of variables predictable and a lot of variables unpredictable, a lot of them. So we have this situation. Here, agile methods work well, because agile, it's about you realize a short-term planning, not a lack of planning. It's a myth. Lack of planning in agile, it's a big myth. Okay, big myth. So we have a short-term planning and execution, adaptive execution, and refinement and progressive elaboration or rolling wave planning. Agile is about that. Okay, agile is not about lack of planning, but planning the right thing in the right moment with feedbacks, short feedbacks, and the goal of complex system learning. Okay, learning it's important thing. Okay, But Vitor, the people talk with me about agile works in a complex environment. It's not really. Agile works in complicated, complex world because, uh, for example, Scrum. Okay, let's talk about Scrum. Scrum needs a product owner. Product owner is a technical specialist. A product owner make analysis about the product. The product owner generates requirements, generates user stories, generates product breakdown structures, feature breakdown structures. Okay, the product owner, the product owner do that. So he or she is a specialist from the complicated world. But execution of sprints, the execution transits here in a complex world. Okay, so it's very interesting to understand an agile concept about releases and sprints. Né? The release planning from agile is in a complicated world. Or for safe adopters, the PI planning. Okay, let's put a key PI planning. PI planning transits in a complicated world. The execution sprints, or the execution through sprints, runs in the complex world. So next release planning trafficates in the complicated world with entry, with the feedbacks of the execution of the previous release. Okay, so it's an interesting transition and complicated and complex, complicated and complex. Okay, so agile works in a complex world. It's a big myth. Okay, so it's some kind of polemical point of view, but it's a real and true point of view. But Vitor, in the complex world, okay. So which practice we can use to solve the problem in the complex world, in experimental world, innovation world, we need to exploitation practices. Okay, we need to explore. Example, here is the design thinking world. We need to discover a problem. We need to discover a path. We need to discover about our clients, about our stakeholders.
It is a typical experimental process, right? Design thinking is a really experimental process.
It's about design sprint. Okay, we need to validate an hypothesis. We need to validate an experiment. It's about the lean startup world. The lean startup, the classical build, measure, learn, and I will put some a 4-item key here: build, measure, learn, and fight. We have a lot of fight in the complex world. We have my company have an interesting experiment. We created a stream video platform called HiFlix. It's some kind of agile Netflix, that some kind of that, and we put the solution on to the market on 3 days, and on 3 days and feedback cycles of 12 hours. 12 hours, our cycles have 12 hours to collect feedbacks, to realize an adaptation of your plans, of your strategies. So it's a big, operating in the complex world, it's a very intense and exhaustive experiences. Okay, so we don't work in the complex in the most part of time. We operate in here in the liminal zone or in the gray zone. Okay, in the chaotic world, we need to action. We need to contingency plans. But contingency plans, contingency plans solve the problem in a temporary way. It's not a definitive solution, because we can have another situation of or a broken restriction from clear world, or a question of negligence from complicated world, or an ambitious experiment from the complex world that moves the entire situation or the entire project from chaotic. Okay, so we need the contingency plans, and we need root cause analysis. We need to understand how we can avoid the entry in the chaotic world. We need to discuss that. So we have some kind of scenarios to understand the use of project manager practices here in project environments. Confusion, like Rogerio said, it's possibly a problem. So we need to broke this program now, decompose this program in smaller projects to understand how these projects, how the characteristics of this project, and choice the right method to the right situation. With Kinevin, we eliminate any kind of passion from methods. We have an agilists who fall in love about Scrum. Scrum saves the world. Kanban saves the world. Safe saves the world. Discipline Agile saves the world. And we have another discussion, because no, Agile, it's only about a lack of planning. We have traditional models based on PMBOK best practices. We have Prince2. We have consolidated practices. And we have the indecision people who talks about important it's hybrid. It's only hybrid. It's not so radical, not extremely waterfall approaches, and not extremely agile approaches. So we have only passion here in my speech. So with Kinevin, you will make some intelligent decisions based on your context, based on characteristics of your projects. it's a last and final thing, very important, because I'm seeing some kind of misuse from framework. It's not about only the known scope or unknown scope. Okay, it's not about only the scope. Okay, it's a no scope, so it's waterfall approach. Oh, it's an unknown scope, so agile approach. It's not only about scope. We need to consider the process. It's a very known scope with unknown process. We have an unpredictable scenario here. We have an unknown process, okay? We have a known process, a knowed process, okay? A knowed process with a knowed scope, and new people, a new team, or unskilled people, an unskilled people, okay, the people who never works with that process and with that kind of solution. So we have here a situation of gray zone or liminal zone. We have some predictable variables, but we have a lot of unpredictable variables. So it's not about scope, okay? It's not about scope. And like Rogerio said in the beginning of this webinar, it's not a categorization framework. It's a sense-making framework. We need to understand the entire context, and the context changes in a perspective of people, process, and scope or product, some kind like that. Okay, so that's it.
Victor, let me ask you something just to clarify to everyone that are listening to this webinar. What means this small c here at the end of this picture?
Oh, that's very interesting. This c, it's about the abysm. Okay, it's abysm. There are some images of Kinevin in a 3D perspective, that this image its image becomes more clear to understand this.
Worth 1,000 words.
Fall. Yes, this fall. It's literally a fall here. Okay, and the fall from clear system, from chaotic system, it's the worst fall. It's the worst fall. Why, Vitor? Why is it the worst fall? Because the goal of the system, remember, is stability. The goal of the system is stability. So if we don't have stability, we have a big chaos. So here it's a fire in the building, terrorism, and some of kind of catastrophes. Okay,
that's happened when you comes from clear environment to a chaotic environment with no decision, with no action. If you don't know, if you don't do something, you're dead. Let's say said in a chaotic environment, if you comes from a clear environment and if you don't take an action, you go to this abyss, to this fall, right?
Yeah, a good example. It's A bank system.
Mm-hmm. Financial
Okay,
cracks.
financial crack, bank system. The bank system is about financial transactions all the day, and the system is out of order. The system is out. System is out. System is out. Oh, the server is down. Anything like that. We have a chaotic situation. A lot of money, a lot of money are wasted in this situation. We have a furious clients that want to realize transactions, and they don't get the transactions. So we have a chaotic system. In a stable system, the banking system is a very stable system, predictable system, repeatable system. So the system out of order is a chaotic.
So when you are in a chaotic,
their server is restored. Okay, we exit from chaos and we return from the stability, the clear system. That's a good example of transitions, and important to understand the severity from a broke restriction or a broke constraint from the clear world. The result can be catastrophic. Depends on context.
so
Okay?
there's no unique road from chaotic to clear or to complex. So depending of the situation, depending of your decision, you can go from chaotic to clear or to complex or to complicated. So depends of what kind of decision you're gonna make it.
Yeah, let's talk a good example. I will raise that. A good example of that, it's IT systems. IT systems, it's a fascinating world. So the system is down. The system is out of order. The system now broken, or we have here a critical bug, for example. Okay, so we have a chaotic thing. This for this bug we know this bug. We know this bug, and we will action the contingence plan. Oh, okay, contingence plan, and we kill the bug and stabilize the system again. It's a bug that we need to call the specialist to make analysis to understand about this bug and take the correction actions. Okay, it's a second example. And the third example, wow, it's a bug that never happened. Never happened in history. That's new. Okay, we need to try some codes. We need to develop some codes and some testing to eliminate this bug. So it's very interesting. We can use sources of the another 3 domains to exit the chaos. So it's very interesting. Another perspective, another interest perspective about the transition of the domains. It's an Alien movie. Alien from Ridley. The first movie from Ridley Scott in 1979. The movie operates the most part of time in the chaotic system. The alien kill every single person of the tripulation. And Sigourney Weaver, the only survival from the movie, she takes an action. She takes an action and experiment ways and she tries methods to kill the, sorry for my vocabulary, to kill the fucking bastard. Okay, so Sigourney Weaver kills the fucking bastard in the end of the movie. So it's a movie that that moves between chaotic and complex worlds. We have a second movie, Aliens from John Cameron of 1986. The movie operates entirely, most part of the time, in a complicated world because Sigourney Weaver becomes a specialist to kill aliens. She has a mission to travel in a planet, in a colony planet that are infected by a lot of aliens. But kill the aliens, it's not kill the aliens is not more it isn't more unpredictable thing to Sigourney Weaver. She becomes an specialist to kill aliens. And we have a third movie, 1993, Aliens Part 3 from David Fincher. It's a polemical movie, but Sigourney Weaver knows every single movement from the alien. Okay, so it's an interesting example. Another movie, it's I can't remember the movie with Tom Hanks about the airplane situation. Hudson, the story of Hudson River. I don't know if the name of the movie is only Hudson. It's a very interesting word, a very interesting movie that treats the Kinevin world. It's a great chance to understand that Tom Hanks makes complex decisions in a chaotic world, and the government wants punish Tom Hanks because they view the situation like a complicated world. Okay, it's a Kinevin movie from the beginning to the end. Okay, I recommend to everything to watch this movie. It's a very interesting Kinevin perspective. Okay,
so the message here, Victor, is go to the cinema and learn about Kinevin.
Yeah, watch Kinevin. Like this the movie it's with I don't know the name the name of the movie in English. The movie with Bruce Willis and the kill. I see dead people. I don't know the name of the movie in English. Here in Brazil is O Sexto Sentido. But I see Cynefin Framework all the time.
Okay, listen, it's almost 7 o'clock, and we unfortunately we don't have more time. This is really an introduction about the Kinevin framework, where we presented some characteristics for each domain and how we can move from one domain to another. But of course, there's a lot of much more information about this. So if you that are listening this webinar now, if you have any question, you can just send a message. If you are in the YouTube or in the one of our websites, you can send us a message. I'm gonna put here below the website of my company is www.startprojectingnow.com. And if you want to contact Vitor, is HighFlex?
HighFlex Group, highflexgroup.com.
Group.com. So if you have any question, you can access our websites, and you're gonna find some contact links where you can send us a message. We'll be more than glad to answer any question from you. And I hope see you in our next webinars. We're gonna keep providing webinars about any kind of subject about project management, agile, governance, management, and stay tuned for our next webinar. Thank you for your attendance, and see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.